Okay, so I have 38 types of artifacts from that I've classified from the Samtavro material. Some I can't be sure about, but I think this is a pretty small proportion given how much has been excavated there. And the categories best represented are bottles, beads, pins, finger rings, fibulae, earrings, vessels, bracelets, buckles and rings. But also then there are a large number of other artifacts which occur in smaller amounts. And then, just for your interest, that was how many artifacts were given individual artifact numbers. But when we actually quantify what artifacts were found at Samtavro, there are, mostly there are beads, 3,553. But overall, this top 10 kind of stays pretty similar. Bottles in the second category, appliques, pinheads, ammo pins, finger rings, fibulae, earrings, vessels, bracelets, buckles. So some of this difference is down to methodology in how artifacts were numbered. But I've collected data on how many for each artifact. So in terms of the material culture at Samtavro, mostly these are personal and decorative items. So there's a lot of jewellery, as you would have seen, toiletry items, some tools, coins. We find coins, both Roman and Parthian coins within the same tombs, which is interesting. Gaming pieces, vessels, and other miscellaneous objects. And just here are some examples of the different sort of the best represented artifact classes. So glass bottles, which were very frequently found in close proximity to the deceased, and they're thought to have contained perfumes, and are referred to as unguentaria. Beads, many different kinds of beads, from glass, case, sardonyx, amber. There are some pearl beads, many different materials, and a range of shapes and sizes and colours. Pins made mostly from bronze and iron, but there are also bone pins. So this one has a gold decoration, fish decoration. Finger rings, thank you. Finger rings, this is a glass ring. They're made from bronze and iron, also silver, and there are a few gold rings found there also, but in a much smaller proportion. Earrings, again, many different designs and different materials. Some of them are sort of more modest, others are much more decorative, sort of elaborate. And you can see here the sort of the granulation which occurs frequently in Georgian metallurgy. It's great square. Buckles and fibulae, again mostly bronze and iron, but also occurring in other materials like silver. Mirrors, there are I think 12 mirrors excavated at the cemetery. These are often found outside of the tombs, and there is, we need to do more research into this, but we think that possibly this may be related to the practice of cranial modification, which may be a Hunnic influence from the steppes to the north. Okay, and just to give you a bit of a contrast, this is some of the material from the MIchalevicz cemetery, very close to Samtavro. Some of this material you can see in the collection here at the Georgian National Museum, but you can see that really there's some absolutely magnificent, beautiful pieces, but they are quite different to what we excavate at Samtavro. But what we do find is that we find similar types of artifacts, but often made from more modest material. So, similarities in design. In this instance, the bead hasn't survived with the earring. Here, the bracelets that we were looking at before. This one is silver and bronze. Here, this is from the cemetery from gold, but this Hercules type knot occurs in more modest materials at Samtavro, and then similar beading. So we find similar material culture, but yes, again, more modest in design. Okay, the Gaia project is interdisciplinary in nature and collaborative, and these images you are looking at now are courtesy of Dr. Alexanda from the Institute of Paleobiology at the Georgian National Museum. And Dr. Alexanda has done some really fascinating research into the NPP, non-pollen polynomorphs, and also the pollen from some of the burials, 9 in total, that were excavated during the Gaia project. So some of the exciting results that Dr. Alexanda has made for example, evidence of many fibres within the tombs. This is from tomb 30, twisted fibres of flax, and in this particular instance, Dr. Alexanda is able to identify that this was probably a winter burial because of the lack of pollen material which is associated with burials made in late spring to summer. Here we have evidence of wood being placed in the tombs, and it's from tomb 29. And here there are some insect remains, so scales of moss and a hair of bee. And so this really provides a whole another layer of understanding for us for the Samtavro material. At this time, there is evidence from other sites that perhaps individuals were being buried in wooden coffins, and perhaps that the presence of this wood fragments in the tomb suggests that these were present earlier, but obviously have since deteriorated. And we may speculate that the presence of the predominantly flax, but also in some cases cotton, hemp, and some other fibres, but perhaps part of the mortuary ritual was also to shroud the individuals who were being interred in the tombs. So there is a lot of very exciting research which continues to be done into Samtavro in different fields, and this will be available to us in the coming years. So there's a lot of exciting work being done. Okay. I have a lot of data, and for my PhD I'm mostly just doing this relational analysis, but in the future I would like to try a new methodology for analysing this data and use semantic analysis, which allows us to model relationships between entities. This is a new methodology in archaeology, but already has promising results. There is work being done in the UK and in Europe, and I'm sure America also, with semantic analysis for archaeological material. And so the relationship between entities is sort of differently defined than in a traditional relational database. I have a lot of gaps in my data, which is a problem with relational databases. But with this type of research methodology, it's actually not a problem, and the mathematical properties which are used to investigate the data or interrogate the data, this is not a hindrance. And you can use open source software for all of this, so I'm still learning about this, but I've done some preliminary research into it, and I think the results will be great, and will in fact reveal a lot more in terms of the relationships between the material culture and the human remains and the tomb architecture. And I've been working on this with Dr. Pierre-Yves Aquilanti from the A-Star Computational Resource Centre in Singapore. So a computer scientist, because this is not my area, so I've been very lucky that he's been working with me on that. And these are some of the projects which are used. So the programs. So I export my data from FileMaker Pro. Google has a program called Google Refine, where you can clean up the data and sort of sort it. You can make an ontology in a program called Protege, and then Gemma I use later to run a special. It's called Sparkle Queries. So and this is just a preliminary visualization of what some of the relationships, interrelationships between, that's just for the material culture, but there's a lot more that can be done with it. So perhaps in the future I'll be able to tell you more about that. Thank you. Alright, so my research questions are what more can we learn about the Samtavro chronology, and this will emerge with the, once I finalise the typology and do more research into the material culture. How is this material culture utilised in the Samtavro mortuary ritual?